The neoclassical baseline predicted humans act only to maximize monetary payoff, keeping all money when in control and offering the bare minimum in negotiations. But reality contradicts this. Dictators give away free money, modal ultimatum offers are 50-50, and responders burn money to punish unfairness. We see this outside the lab, too. In a 1986 survey by Kahneman, Netsch, and Thaler, researchers asked consumers how they would react if a local drugstore raised its prices while a competitor was temporarily closed. Nearly 70% stated they would boycott the store and endure a longer drive to shop elsewhere, enforcing a fairness standard at a personal cost. Telephone surveys, however, are a classic case of hypothetical bias. Talk is cheap when your own cash isn't on the line. This leaves a core puzzle for behavioral economists. If humans are willing to make real financial sacrifices, what exact mathematical structure of other regarding preferences drives that choice? To solve this, researchers developed three competing behavioral models. The first is difference aversion, or inequality aversion. In this model, individuals experience active disutility simply from unequal payoffs, meaning they will sacrifice money to reduce the gap between themselves and someone else. The second model centers on social welfare, or efficiency concerns. Here, individuals care primarily about maximizing the total overall pie, placing extra value on raising the floor for the worst-off members of the group. The third model is reciprocity. In this framework, intentions are the controlling variable. Individuals will treat a kind actor kindly, but will actively expend resources to punish bad actors. We do not need to abandon utility theory to explain fairness. By treating prosociality as a measurable, non-consumption good, we can map the exact mathematical structure of human altruism. Identifying whether our financial choices are driven by equality, efficiency, or reciprocity dictates how we write corporate contracts, design public institutions, and understand how markets behave. To validate altruism as a legitimate subject of study, economists had to demonstrate that giving follows a consistent internal logic, like any other consumer choice. In 2002, Andreoni and Miller modified the standard dictator game. Instead of dividing tokens equally, they introduced a price of giving. They forced choices across different budget sets, where passing tokens became either very cheap, costing a fraction of a point, or extremely expensive. They then applied a strict mathematical stress test to these choices, called GARP, the generalized axiom of revealed preference. Rational choices cannot contradict their own established preferences. Roughly 98% of the subjects satisfied GARP. Human giving can be rationalized by a continuous, concave utility function. The researchers identified three dominant aggregate archetypes: the selfish type, who keeps everything, the Rawlsian type, who equates payoffs to minimize inequality, and the utilitarian type, who acts as a perfect substitute, maximizing the total pie regardless of who gets more. This chart from source image 1 plots the predicted demand curve for giving as the price increases. The mixture of heterogeneous types predicts a specific downward-sloping line. Panning to source image 2, observed behaviors tightly align with this predicted curve at every single price point. By satisfying GARP, economists proved that altruism is a stable, predictable preference. There is a limitation here, though. Pooling data into broad population archetypes obscures the extreme variance of individual human preferences. To solve this, researchers Fissman, Kariv, and Markovits looped the experiment to a graphical computer interface. This allowed them to subject participants to 50 randomized, rapid-fire budget choices. This sheer volume of data allowed the researchers to estimate a distinct constant elasticity of substitution utility function for every single subject. The key variable in this function is a parameter called rho. Rho measures an individual's exact trade-off between maximizing the total pie and minimizing differences. Looking at source image 3, we observe how subjects reacted when giving was cheap, intermediate, or expensive. Panning down to source image 4, the distribution reveals massive individual heterogeneity. Extreme dispersion at every price point proves preferences vary wildly from person to person. But when they mapped the rho parameter across the population, a definitive pattern emerged. While estimates spanned the entire theoretical range, the vast majority of subjects possessed a positive rho. A positive rho indicates that when forced to make a trade-off, human nature leans heavily toward expanding the total social surplus, rather than demanding everyone gets a strictly equal cut. efficiency beats equality. Standard dictator games still have one critical blind spot. They treat the other person as a completely passive receiver. They ignore how human generosity is altered by the intentions of the person we are interacting with. Economists Charnas and Rabin utilized sequential response games to test this, tracking how player B's choices shift based on the prior actions of player A. Their Burke 29 game tested difference aversion against social welfare. Player B chooses an equal 400 token split, or a Pareto improvement giving player A 750 tokens. 69% chose the 750 split, rejecting pure difference aversion to help the other player costlessly. To test reciprocity, researchers isolated intent by comparing two different game trees, Bark 5 and Bark 7. Both games end in the exact same mathematical choice for player B, but they feature different preceding choices by player A. In Bark 5, player A bypasses a fair split. Reacting to this unkindness, 33% of B players punish A with a lower payout. But in Bark 7, A bypassed a selfish option instead. Lacking that bad intent, B's punishment rate plummets to 6%. Human generosity is highly conditional. We are generally willing to maximize social welfare, but we actively withdraw that utility weight when dealing with bad actors. Charnas and Rabin synthesized all these varying behaviors, efficiency, equality, and intent, into one unified regression model defined by three vital parameters. The first parameter is rho, estimated at 0.42. This confirms a heavy positive weight placed on the other person's payoff when you are ahead. The second parameter is sigma, estimated at a near 0.02. This shows that players place almost no weight on the other person's payoff when they are behind, dealing a final blow to models relying on strong inequality aversion. The third parameter is theta, estimated at negative 0.11. This represents the reciprocity penalty, the drop in how much you care about the other person if they previously misbehaved. The ultimate empirical consensus is surprisingly clear. Humans are charitable when ahead, largely indifferent when behind, and actively less generous to jerks. These parameters represent the specific governing mechanics that enforce community fairness norms in the real world. This underlying utility structure is exactly why firms hesitate to cut nominal wages during recessions or restrain themselves from infinitely raising prices during demand spikes. They know their customers possess a theta parameter and will punish them for violating social welfare. By formalizing the math of altruism, behavioral economics defines fairness as a predictable utility that sustains human